Tommy looked out at the sea of white with small patches of green popping out like they were playing peekaboo. The evergreen trees were covered in a layer of snow so heavy the branches drooped under the great weight. He walked from tree to tree, taking note of every detail. "Too skinny," Tommy said to himself. "Too short. Too thick. Too squirrely." Tommy's eyes moved upward as he spotted a tree that stood up taller than the rest, with its sturdy branches supporting the thick blanket of snow. He slowly approached the tree and carefully examined it through his squinted eyes, protecting him from the snowflakes. He walked all around the tree, stroking his chin and analyzing every branch. He looked across the snowy field to Mark, who was trudging through the snow, searching for trees. Tommy called out, "How about this one?" Mark turned his head and trudged over towards Tommy. He looked up and down at the enormous tree.
"Is it sturdy?"
he asked as he reached his hand through the snowy pine branches, grabbing the trunk of the tree and giving it a strong shake. The tree did not move, but Tommy giggled as a pile of snow fell from the branch and plopped right on Mark's head. "Yep, that's sturdy," said Tommy.
"Should have thought through that one. Go ahead, Tommy, chop it."
Tommy got down on his hands and knees, brushing aside the snow at the base of the tree with his gloved hands. Once he had formed a small snowbank, he reached down, picked up the axe, and marked his spot at the base of the tree's trunk. "Chop, chop, timber!" yelled Tommy as the tree came collapsing down, sending a poof of snow swirling in the air.
"All right, you take the top end, and I'll take the bottom."
"Copy that," said Tommy. The two boys grabbed the tree by its trunk and began hiking through the snow, carrying the tree back into town. "People are going to love this," said Tommy. As the boys came out of the field at the top of the hill, they saw the warmth of the lights illuminating the cold winter sky. They began to descend the hill as the sound of Christmas carols being sung grew louder, and the smells of bakeries baking cookies grew nearer. The boys carefully walked down the steep hill and through the gates of town. As they walked down the stone street, the warm, yellow light from the storefront windows pooled outside and reflected off the freshly fallen snow. As they approached the town square, Mr. Bloomington raised his hands and waved them over towards him.
"Good job, boys. You picked a good one."
As they came closer, Mr. Bloomington scratched his thick white beard and said,
"That's the biggest tree we've ever had."
"Tommy found it."
Mr. Bloomington patted Tommy on the back and said,
"Well done, Tommy. Let's get that in the stand."
Tommy and Mark carefully placed the tree trunk in the stand and worked together to stand the tree up straight.
"It's huge. I hope we have enough lights."
"Mark and I will get right to it," said Tommy as he took a clump of Christmas lights from the box and held it up.
"Thanks, Tommy. We'll have to if we're going to be ready in time for the Christmas tree lighting. Only 2 days."
As Tommy reached up to begin stringing lights on the tree, he heard a voice from behind him yell,
"Hey, Tommy!"
He turned around, wondering who it might be. He saw a group of boys skating at the ice rink, and his friend Zachary waving and yelling,
"Come skate with us!"
"I can't! I have to finish my work!"
"Can't you take a break?"
"No," said Tommy. "I need to earn money."
"That's what you always say."
Tommy watched his friends as they played and laughed. He looked down at Mark, who was twirling in circles, trying to untangle himself from the strand of lights somehow wrapped around his body. Tommy took a deep breath in and continued decorating. As he decorated, he imagined his family on Christmas Eve. He pictured himself handing his dad the first gift of Christmas and watching his amazement as he unwrapped the box. Tommy snapped back into reality when he heard Mark say,
"I think we're done. I'll plug it in."
Mark grabbed the end of the power cord and inserted it into the outlet when suddenly,
What happened? Ah!
Can someone turn the lights back on, please? It's very dark.
Hey, what's happening?
What happened?
What happened to the lights?
Can someone please turn the lights back on?
All the lights in the village went out in an instant. People were screaming. Tommy heard his friends crash into each other on the ice rink. In the dark, Tommy heard Mr. Bloomington's voice cry.
Wrong outlet, Mark.
The lights came back on as Mark removed the cord from the outlet.
Let's just keep it unplugged until tomorrow, Mark.
Tommy looked down from the ladder on which he was standing and saw Mark and Mr. Bloomington with bright smiles on their faces.
This is gonna be good.
Said Mark.
Oh, yes.
Said Mr. Bloomington. He continued, reaching into his pocket.
All right, boys. I think that does it. Thank you for all your hard work.
He handed each of the boys a handful of coins and said,
Don't spend it all in one place.
Thank you, Mr. Bloomington.
Tommy heard the clicking of his shoes as he ran down the cobblestone street, through the winding roads, up and down the slopes, and into a narrow alley with 3 storefronts. He walked all the way to the end of the alleyway and turned into a storefront with a short Christmas tree covered in lights. As he opened the wooden door, a small bell rang, causing an old man to step out from the small room behind the counter.
Afternoon.
Hi there.
Back for more?
Yes, sir. I just need a few more pieces. Tommy felt the floorboards creak as he walked across the old shop to the shelf he had visited so many times before. He reached his hand up high into a small bin which contained a collection of mismatched metal pieces. He grasped onto different pieces, trying to determine if they were the right shape, but the bin was too high for him to see.
Here, let me help.
The old man gently took the bin and lowered it down so Tommy could see inside.
What piece are you trying to build?
I'm working on the right wing. I need a tip.
Ah, I think... No, not that. Maybe this.
Tommy shook his head.
Ah,
Maybe not the banana.
you'd be surprised what works in a pinch. This one.
Yeah, that's perfect, said Tommy.
Excellent. All right, young man, you are looking at a total of $3.57.
Tommy reached into his pocket for the money Mr. Bloomington had given him. He carefully placed all 3 of the dollar bills on the counter and then carefully counted his coins. 1 quarter, 25 cents. 2 quarters, 50 cents. 1 nickel, 55 cents. 1 penny, 56 cents. Uh-oh, he said, it looks like that's all I have.
That's all right, Tommy. You're close enough.
The old man placed Tommy's hardware items in a small bag, placed it in Tommy's hands and said,
You have a very Merry Christmas, Tommy.
Merry Christmas to you too. He stepped out into the cold air and looked up as the snowflakes fell from the dreary winter air and cooled his face. He began walking home, leaving footprints on the fresh dusting of snow that had fallen on the road. He shivered as his vision blurred in a cloud of white. Through his snowy eyes, he could make out the glow of a lamp and a second-story window, and he knew he was home. He took the small bag with his hardware in it, and he stuffed it underneath his sweater so nobody could see it. He heard through the door the sound of his mother and sister practicing Christmas carols, causing him to smile faintly. He approached the door, removed his gloves, opened the door, and quickly went inside, slamming the door behind him. He heard the crackle of the fire as his father, Dave, added another log.
Tommy, you're home!
Hi, Hazel,
Hey Tom, come look at this.
Dave said as he guided Tommy to his telescope, which was pointed out the window.
Look inside.
Tommy closed his left eye, and with his right eye, he peered through the telescope.
What do you see?
Whoa, it's the Big Dipper.
Sure is. It's not often you see constellations in the snow.
Dad, all you ever want to do is look through your telescope.
It's your father's passion.
Someday I want to go to space.
Your father almost did. Did you know that, Hazel?
He did? Why didn't he?
Well, my dream was always to be an astronaut. But then we found out we were having Tommy, and so my dream changed. I decided to get a job that allowed me to stay right here. Because our family is better than any space adventure.
Tommy looked at his dad with wonder in his eyes. That's so cool.
And you know what?
What?
I haven't regretted it one day in my life.
Tommy looked down at his toes. I'm going to my room. I have a lot to do.
That's what you always say.
It's all right, Tom.
Tom quietly walked down the hallway to his bedroom.
Maria, what do you think he's doing in there? He's been doing this for months.
Tommy put his ear against the bedroom door to make sure nobody was outside listening. Once he determined that he was alone, he removed the bag from under his sweater and set it on his bed. He crouched down, lifted the lining of his bed, and reached underneath, pulling a wooden crate out. He placed the crate in his bed and very carefully removed the object inside. A model space shuttle. You're almost done, he whispered to himself as he dumped the contents of the bag onto his bed. Tommy smiled as he thought about his dad unboxing the model and how thrilled he would be. Tommy took the metal piece and pulled a wrench out of the wooden crate. He very carefully placed the metal piece on the wing of the model, grasped it with the wrench, and began to twist, tightening the metal to the spacecraft. The metal wasn't moving very easily, and he grasped the model a little harder to get it to a stronger grip. He gave the wrench a hearty tug, and the metal tightened a bit. Just a few more, he whispered to himself. He tugged again, and it became a little tighter. He tugged another time, tighter still. One easy, he whispered to himself. Another tug. Easy. The model squeaked. Don't you dare sneeze, spacecraft, said Tommy. Tommy went in for another tug, and as he pulled back, he lost his grip. He saw the spacecraft begin to wobble, and he reached quickly to stabilize it. As he reached, his hand brushed the side of it, and like it was happening in slow motion, he saw the model spacecraft begin to fall off of his bed. He jumped to catch it, but he could already tell that he was too late. He watched as the model came crashing to the floor with a thunderous bang, and the whole model burst. You sneezed, said Tommy defeatedly. Tommy looked at the broken spacecraft, stunned. His mouth hung open. He felt like he couldn't breathe. His gaze remained fixed on the broken Christmas gift, thinking that this had to be a dream. He crawled over to the remains, assessing the damage. He felt a soft whimper escape from between his lips as a lump developed in his throat. Tears began to roll down his eyes as he cried to himself, "No! How could this happen? The day before Christmas Eve!"
Hey, Tommy.
Tommy quickly gathered the scattered spacecraft pieces, threw them in the wooden crate, and shoved the crate back under his bed. He jumped to his feet and locked eyes with his father. Yeah? Tommy responded. He felt his heart pounding in his chest.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
What are you doing?
Just thinking, said Tommy.
Thinking about what? Do you need to talk?
No, I'm fine. Tommy's father looked at him with deep, compassionate eyes.
All right, Tommy. But you know you can always talk to me, right?
Of course.
Even if it's about your suspiciously loud hammering noises?
I was rearranging thoughts.
Good. Thoughts can be messy.
Dave smiled as he left the bedroom, closing the door behind him. Once Tommy heard the door latch shut, he flopped onto his bed and buried his face in his pillow. He punched the bed and let out an angry growl before rolling over and looking out his window. Tommy knew that he had to make a plan, and make it fast. He watched the snowflakes slowly emerge from the black winter sky and drift down to join the others on the thick white coating. as his mind churned over his next step.
Juice box.